Hello everyone, I'm Rodney from 3DGameMan.com, and today I'm looking at the Phanteks EVOLV Case. It comes in this great looking box, has a large picture on the front, information here on both sides, the left and right, as well as at the back. Has your typical case packaging material, styrofoam on either end, and the case itself comes in a plastic bag. It has this protective plastic on the window, and inside, a box. And in it they include a user's manual, a plastic toolbox that houses things like screws and whatnot, but you can really use this for anything you want. A couple of Velcro ties, plastic cable ties, and 3 LEDs. These you can mount at the front of the case. I'll show you that in just a bit. They include a red one, a green one, and a blue one, as well as a pump bracket and an optical disc drive bracket. This of course fits a 5¼ inch optical disc drive. Now this is a micro ATX case, and I have to say the looks on this, well, very, very sharp indeed. This comes in a black color and a white color. If you want to go stormtrooper-ish, well, you probably should go for the white one. Now on the outside it is all aluminum, but the inside is steel, and pretty much all these outside panels come off, and I'll show you that now. And if you're wondering where the power button, reset button, and the other I/O connectors are, well, they're hidden on the right side. I'll get to that in just a second. Also on the left side, as you can see, is a nice large vertical window. So let's go ahead here and take the panels off. First of all, the left side. Swing it all the way back and lift it up. Boom. The right one, same thing. Swing it back till it clears, and then you can take it off. The front one, just pull it off. The top one, again, just pop it right off. And here's how it works. These starts go into these latches and hold the panels into position. It is fairly secure. Just be aware, of course, if you are moving the case, that the panels all come off. Otherwise, well, you could damage the case. As well, they've got all this rubber along the panels on the left and right side, just to cut down on vibrations. And I have to say, it goes together so well. At the front, you can see that there are a number of areas to allow that front fan to intake cool air, as well as an LED here. Now let me take off this panel so you can see that fan. It is a 200mm intake fan that comes with a removable dust filter. Now while they include this gigantic 200mm intake fan, you can optionally install more if you choose. You can take this one out and put up to 2 120mm or up to 2 140mm fans. Alternatively, you can install a radiator up to 240mm. So AIOs in this case are all-in-one coolers. Definitely an option. You can mount it at the top as well as the back as well. I'll go to that in just a minute, but you can have a 120, 140, or a 240mm radiator at the front. Now remember these LEDs I mentioned at the beginning of the video review. You have a red one, a green one, and a blue one. Well, you can swap this one out, the clear one, and replace it with either of these. On the right side panel is a power button as well as a reset button, and further down they include 2 USB 3 ports as well as a microphone and headphone jack. On the top panel they have lots of ventilation on both sides as well as the front and the back. The window on the left side panel is smoked, and at the back of the case they include a 140mm exhaust fan. You can install a 120mm fan optionally, plus of course you can install AIOs back here, all in one liquid coolers, either a 120 or a 140. Note as well that they have these slots grooved, so if you're installing fans, you can move the fans up or down, or for that matter, the AIO up or down. Maybe you need to reposition a little bit, and that gives you that tiny bit of adjustment. Plus, here is where the motherboard's I/O shield plate gets installed. They include 4 ventilated expansion slots, extra ventilation. And despite the fact that this is a micro ATX case, you can install a standard ATX power supply. There is a removable dust filter at the bottom for the power supply's intake fan. Now the build quality on this case is top notch. All the components are going to last for a very, very long time. Like for example, these steel hinges, which are screwed into position. Of course, each panel has 2 of these, one at the bottom and another one at the top. Now let me show you how easy it is to remove and install one of these panels. Just swing it open like so, and voila, it comes right off. How easy is that? To put it back, it's not so easy, but still not hard. You have to line it up properly and back into place. This case fits micro ATX and mini ITX form factor motherboards. There's not a lot of room to work on the inside, but hey, that's to be expected. This is, after all, a micro ATX case. Now, there's a panel which comes off here by removing 4 regular screws, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. You can mount on this either 2.5-inch drives, 3.5-inch drives, or a reservoir, or even a pump. Look at that. Comes right off for easy access to the inside of the case. Now the motherboard tray is not removable, but they do have a large hole on it for the cooler's retention plate, plus plenty of rubber grommeted holes here, and that's for routing the cables to the back behind the motherboard tray, and there is plenty of space back there to do that. Get them out of the inside of the case, or at least get as many as you can. Now that's good for being neat and tidy, plus look at this at the bottom. You've got this kind of shroud happening here. They've kept branding to a minimum, and I like that, but they do have their Phanteks logo on the left side just inside of the case, and here's what it looks like with the left side panel on. Look at this, lots of ventilation, and this panel can be removed by taking off 2 thumb screws. Below here, there's a place to install either 2 3.5-inch drives or 2 2.5-inch drives, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Now remember this optical disc drive bracket that I mentioned at the beginning of the video review that you can install a 5.25-inch drive on? Well, it gets mounted to the back of the case like so. There's a panel that you can take off, of course, first before installing this, but there is an option for that. I don't know who would install it, to be honest, because most people, well, don't go with a 5.25-inch drive anymore. Now that we're here, you can see there's plenty of provision at the top of the case to install optional fans and radiators. And at the top of the case, you can install up to 2 optional 120 or 2 optional 140 millimeters. Alternatively, a radiator that's up to 280 millimeters. No fancy expansion slot toolless design here, but you know what? Thumb screws work just as well. Okay, so let's have a peek behind the motherboard tray. Lots of stuff going on here. Again, there's plenty of space between it and the right side panel to route all kinds of cables. Punch outs on the motherboard tray. They include these fancy Phanteks Velcro ties to attach them. Again, these rubber grommeted holes to route the cables through. They include this PWM fan hub. Note that there's a power connection at the bottom provided by a SATA connector. 3-pin connections on either side, 6 of those, and a PWM 4-pin connector at the top. As well included is this cable. You've got a female to female connector here from the fan hub into the 4-pin CPU fan header on the motherboard. Now, if you're wondering how many drives you can fit in this case, well, you can fit up to 3 3.5-inch or up to 5 2.5-inch drives, and you can fit 2 of those 2.5-inch drives here. They include 1 of these brackets. You can remove it like so, install the drive on it, and then slide it back into position. You can get an optional one here. Now, this is where you would install a 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drive. Just pinch, and it comes right out and it slides back in just as easily. Now, if you want to, you can actually remove this entire section and mount, for example, a pump down here and take off that top section, which I showed you earlier, and then you can have access from here up into the main part of the case. Plus, if you're installing a power supply, this is how you would do it from this side. The other side, of course, has that shroud on it, so you can't. As well, they include 4 rubber rests for the USB power supply to lodge on. Now I installed this power supply just to give you an idea that there is room behind the power supply and the drive system here. You can remove it, but you don't really have to unless, of course, you have a longer power supply or you want to do something else with this space. At the bottom, they include 4 rubber feet, and note these 2 sections, one at the front and another one at the back. This will elevate the case off the surface perfect, especially if you're putting the case on a soft surface like carpet. Finally, have a listen to the fans. Remember, there's a 200mm intake fan at the front and a 140mm exhaust fan at the back. These fans are not that loud at all, but let me open up the left side panel. Again, very reasonable. Now this case is a breath of fresh air when it comes to design. It's nice to see something unique for a change. Some might say it's weird. I say it is beautiful. It comes in 2 different colors, black and white. The white, though, is a little bit stormtrooperish, but if you're into that, maybe it will be the case to have. Aluminum exterior, all the panels are removable. That's a good and bad thing. Remember, when you're moving the case, keep it in mind, because if you go, oops, and then, something separates like that and the case falls over and you damage some hardware, well, that wouldn't be a good thing. So not a case really for LAN parties. As a matter of fact, I would rule it out for that. But considering its size, it has a fair amount of room to work, places to route cables. Oh, before I forget, comes with a 5-year warranty as well. So overall, if you're looking for a very unique looking, feature-rich micro ATX case, to be honest, if I was building one, I'd probably select this very case. Overall, this is a 100% kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.